Greetings and welcome to another exciting conversation with Josh Charisma. I will be talking on the topic dealing with heartbreak. Dealing with heartbreak. I do not know if you have ever experienced what we call heartbreak, but trust me, heartbreak is not a joke. People have taken their own lives because they were heartbroken. Some people have plunged themselves into depression and other mental health concerns or issues thanks to heartbreak. And when we talk about heartbreak, we are merely describing the pain, emotional and psychological, that is associated with either losing a relationship or making a discovery about the person you are in a relationship with that totally shocks you and takes you unawares and is a sign that trust has been broken, and therefore you need to reconsider going forward with that relationship. There are different reasons why people get heartbroken in the context of a relationship. And I want to say that heartbreak is not an experience that you can get over at the wink of an eye, at the drop of a hat. There is a lot that you have to do to heal from a heartbreak. But there are also things that you can do to lighten the impact of heartbreak if it ever becomes your lot. One of them is to realize that love is not just an emotional decision, love is also supposed to be a logical decision. You don't love somebody and then it appears as if you leave your common sense, you leave your brain, you leave your logical mind behind, and you take just your heart along. You should know that the person that you are dealing with is a human being and plays host to an error margin. The person is fallible. The person can make mistakes. The person has temperamental weaknesses. This consciousness will help you to lighten the impact of a heartbreak if it happens to you. Now, what are some of the causes of heartbreak and how can we prevent heartbreak? The first most important cause of heartbreak is relationship failure. It's not always synonymous to heartbreak, but it often leads to heartbreak because some people feel like they should go for Thanksgiving when a relationship fails. But of course, we know that relationship failure is a leading cause of heartbreak. If for any reason a relationship can no longer go on, one of the parties or both parties, if they were really invested in the relationship, they would feel really, really broken. In some cases, highly betrayed by that situation, by that outcome. And there are several reasons why a relationship can end or even die a natural death. If, for example, as you're pulling along, you get to realize that maybe the person has a terminal health issue, a terminal health disease, and you wouldn't want to be the one to give them palliative care while they experience their last days on earth, you may want to bring the relationship to a logical end. Okay? There are several reasons why a relationship can come to an end. It could also be because you have come to a point where you just realize that you are not compatible with the person. Your values are opposite, your principles are opposite. The things you believe to be convictions, your own convictions, are constantly and repeatedly violated by the person. And then you realize perhaps that maybe the person's family does not accept you, they don't want to have anything to do with you, and then the relationship has to end. But it doesn't always end in an amicable way. You cannot have an operation without blood. There has to be some blood, there has to be some bleeding. And that's why we talk about the concept of heartbreak. Heartbreak can also be caused by a secret that has now come to light. If you are walking with somebody, hoping to get down the aisle and exchange vows with them eventually and become man and wife. And then you realize in the course of your journey with the person that the person is maybe a baby mama, or the person is a single, I don't know, a single father or something. And the person never told you all along. That is enough reason for some people to quit. And just that discovery in itself will definitely make them heartbroken. Also, if you realize that the person that you are in a relationship with is a cheat, is a flirt, is not loyal to you, is not faithful to you, is seeing other men or seeing other women, or if you realize that the person is perhaps pregnant. Some men call it quit when they realize that the lady that they are in courtship with is pregnant. Sometimes even when they are the father of the child, the unborn child, they will call it quits because they really do not want to shoulder that responsibility. I mean, just not yet. And that is one thing that makes women to say men has come. There are several other reasons why someone may be heartbroken. If you realize, for example, that you go to the hospital and you run some of these tests, blood group related and others, and then you realize that you don't match, you people don't match, you cannot get together and marry because you're going to, even if you succeed to marry and you have a child, you may bring sickness into the world and you decide to go your separate ways, there'll probably be heartbreak, the experience of heartbreak. Now, how can you handle heartbreak? How can you manage it if it happens? The first recommendation is that do not live in denial. Don't live in denial. Accept the fact that you are hurting. This is very, very important. Because some people try to move around to prove that they are strong, to prove that, the heartbreak had nothing on them. They are stronger than whatever they went through and all that. If at all they admit that they went through anything, don't live in denial. Admit that this is your reality. Secondly, find an outlet for your pain. If you have admitted that you are pained and you are in pain, your heart is bleeding, your heart is broken and bleeding, find an outlet for that pain. And there are fundamentally two outlets that you can create for that pain. The first is that you should share your story with somebody who can listen to you actively and respond with empathy. Okay? You could go to a counselor if you don't have a reliable friend who has a shoulder to cry on and a listening ear. Additionally, you can let it out by crying. Now, that does not sound like the be a man advice we hear all the time. That gets channeled and directed at African men. Be a man, you are not a woman, you can't be crying. And I'm here to recommend to you, as funny as it sounds, that if it becomes necessary, cry. Whatever helps you find closure for that hurt, please do it as long as it is healthy. Because some people hurt themselves in trying to heal from hurt, and that should not be the case. So cry if you have to. Get into your room and let the tears flow generously. You will feel better after you cry. Another thing I want to talk about as one way to help yourself is forgive and then heal. Forgive the person from your heart, genuinely, and then heal. Let me warn you, healing is a process, while forgiveness is an act. It's a decision. You can decide to forgive someone, but you will have to go through the motions of the healing process. Don't try to fast track it. Don't try to micromanage it. Let it take its natural course so that you can find closure. At some point, you would heal and end up with a scar that reminds you of what you went through, and that's okay. People don't heal at the same pace and speed, so take your time and heal. Another recommendation I can give you to manage heartbreak is detach yourself from memories that link you back to that place, to that relationship that you so badly want to forget. This is very important. It could be pictures that you took with a person that you have, in your room, and you just wake up and look at it and admire and cry and start wishing that, things are not what they are, wishing that the situation would just change overnight by some magic wand, that God would intervene and things will go back to what they used to be. Instead of crying every day and using that picture as a point of contact, why don't you tear it? At some point, you may even have to block the person. Depending on what led to your heartbreak, you may have to block the person. Anything that reminds you of that relationship may inject, some freshness into that pain, and you feel the pain over again. So you want to do away with those memories, those things that remind you about what you experienced with that person. Another thing that I want to recommend to you is that you should actually move on. But don't try to move on by getting into another relationship while you are still hurting. You cannot find healing from hurt by getting into another relationship when your hurt is still fresh. No, take your time. Don't try to prove a point to the other person that you have moved on, or it takes you a very short time to move on and that you can do without them by looking for the next pair of arms to fall into. All right? Take a break from relationships for a while until you figure out what it is that led to the untimely end of the last relationship. Well, I call it untimely end, but I must also say that some relationships end before they actually start. Some relationships are dead on arrival. Let's be honest with ourselves. So get busy. Get busy with your purpose. Get busy with your life. Heartache, heartbreak can make you to even neglect self-care. Heartbreak can affect you spiritually, can affect you professionally. It can affect you in terms of productivity. It can make you to be lazy, and you just feel like there's no point in going on. There is no point in doing anything. I mean, the only person that truly mattered in my life, the only person I genuinely cared about, is no longer in my life. It can even lead to suicide. Many people have had to kill themselves because they were heartbroken. So get busy with your assignment. Very, very important. The next thing is that please do not become an overnight relationship expert. Some people, in trying to help the world learn wisdom from their experience, are spreading toxicity on social media. You will hear them say men are scum and women are this, all men are the same, and all that. Because somebody treated them unfairly, somebody jilted them, and they felt that they could use that one person to summarize the story of the human race. That is not true. That's a hasty generalization, which is not logical or consistent with logic. So yeah, don't be in a hurry to start dishing advice to people and telling people how they should treat other people so that they will not be heartbroken. Remember that the circumstances that led to your own heartbreak are unique. They are unique, and different people respond to heartbreak differently. What worked for you may not work for another person. It's not one size fits all. And most importantly, please open up to a therapist and open your wounds up to the balm of Gilead, the God of all the earth, who is able to heal the wounds of the hurting. It's very important that you open up to somebody who is trained, somebody who is perhaps a therapist, somebody who has gone through training, who has had what it takes to counsel you clinically. And then you can be sure that you will get expert advice and you'll find your way out of that situation. And I want to also say that you should take some time to have some introspection. Do some analysis, deep analysis, and be objective about it. Try to reason within yourself, what is it that happened that led to the end of your previous relationship? Because if you don't deal with the things that are holding you back in your relationships, you will end up with several heartbreaks. Sometimes the problem is not the person that left. Sometimes the problem is you who stayed. Okay? And finally, I want to say, Do not spread the dirty linens of the person on a drying line, the drying line of social media especially, or the drying line of a podcast. You go on a podcast and you start telling the world how this person did this and this and this and this to you, and you have to leave the person because you value your mental health, and that people should avoid narcissists and toxic people and gaslighters and so on and so forth. We see these things floating on social media. People go to different podcasts and they talk about how they were jilted, how they were ill-treated, and how they decided that they were going to take, a break because they value their mental health and they were to protect themselves from toxic people. You may actually be the toxic person who is going on a podcast to spread more toxicity in the name of warning people and helping them value their mental health. At some point or the other in your life, you probably will experience a heartbreak, or you will come in contact with somebody who has experienced a heartbreak. I think that if you consider some of these principles that have been shared, then you will be able to either find help out of your heartbreak or to give help to another person who is heartbroken, broken, and hurting. Think about it. God bless you.